The video you're watching is the home of a very sinister man. Looks like a dump, right? Well, plot twist, cause he actually lived here. This individual was highly manipulative and had a cult following. There was no rules in his house, meaning you could do whatever you want without consequence or judgment. Everyone in the neighborhood knew this guy was into some really scary stuff, and he got away with it for 5 years. This is the story of Pazuzu Algarad, the devil next door. Pazuzu was born John Alexander Lawson and has always had a troubled past. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and severe depression. By the time he was 8, his parents split up, and this not only messed him up more, but he ended up living with his mom, and she played a key role in all of this. John began drinking when he was only 13 years old and later dropped out of high school. Following the downward spiral, he became an agoraphobic, which pretty much meant he was extremely scared of crowded places. So he would spend most of his time at home away from society. He then began having a deep dark attraction to Satan and legally changed his name from John Alexander Lawson to Pazuzu Algarad. In Arabic, Pazuzu means the king of demons, and this was the best way to describe him. He had a sort of intoxicating aura. That and a mixture of subtle manipulation gave him a following of people who were devoted to him. Some would even describe being in his presence made them feel free and powerful. Now, not only did his name and personality change, but his appearance started looking different as well. Pazuzu grew his hair long, filed down his teeth into sharp points, and split his tongue in half. He also started getting satanic tattoos all over his body and face. And to add on to all of that, he had horrible hygiene, showering only once a year and never bothering to brush his teeth. He would claim doing so would strip the body of its defense in warding off infections and illnesses. So you could easily say this guy was a pretty filthy animal. Anyways, things only got worse cause he got into some dark rituals. On the full moon of every month, his mother would buy him a rabbit and Pazuzu would take it down to the river and eat its... He claimed this was a rush like no other. Anyways, in a Christian neighborhood like Clemens, North Carolina, this sort of behavior and his lawless house was kind of an attraction for people who were outcasts and misfits. They could come live there for as long as they want, and they were free to do anything their hearts desired. For them, all of this was like exploring their dark side. He was very similar to Charles Manson in the sense that his charisma enabled him to create a cult. Now, apparently Pazuzu was a ladies' man as well, cause he had multiple girlfriends whom he referred to as his fiancées. The main two were a woman by the name of Amber Birch and Crystal Matlock, and they would do anything he said. His careless lifestyle of partying, drinking, and doing satanic rituals escalated, and his home quickly became a cesspool. There would be garbage everywhere with animal litter on the floor, music always blaring with all sorts of graffiti on the wall, and visitors were starting to notice the smell of death. Here and there, Pazuzu would make mention that there were dead bodies in his basement, but no one really took him seriously cause they thought he was full of shit. However, as time went on, the braggings about his murders would continue. One day specifically talking about a man that he had shot 6 times and hidden in the basement. By that time, a friend of his by the name of Tarina Billings ended up reporting this information to detectives. They then showed up to his house and asked him if they could look around. Pazuzu said no, and that was the end of that. A while later, a couple of more anonymous tips come in about the same incident, and again, police do nothing about it. Coincidentally enough, during that year, 2 other men went missing. One by the name of Joshua Wetzler and the other Tommy Welch. In 2010, a search warrant was executed for Pazuzu's house because of Joshua's whereabouts, and when police conducted the search, they didn't find anything. Now, any other criminal would probably dial it back after being investigated so much, but Pazuzu felt invincible, thinking he could never get caught. So he became even worse, to the point where he ended up choking his mother and she had to call the cops on him, but later dropped the charges. By now his followers were becoming more loyal to him and being further brainwashed, cause not long after, a body of a man by the name of Joseph Chandler was found by the river, and police linked his death to Pazuzu and one of his friends, Nicholas Rizzi. Without sufficient evidence of what actually happened the night of Joseph's death, these two played it off like this murder was just an accident. And the court sentenced Nicholas to 13 months in prison for involuntary manslaughter, while Pazuzu was given a 5-year probation at home. Imagine that. He gets to spend his punishment inside his own house where he actually likes being. Now, you're probably asking yourself, how come his mother didn't really step in to do anything? Well, the simple answer is because she was afraid of him. Now, all of this would come to an end one night when Pazuzu asked one of his friends, Matt Flowers, to help him murder someone during one of his parties.
He's like, let's kill him right now, we'll get away with it.
Matt declined and immediately told that individual about what Pazuzu was gonna do and got him to leave the house right away. The next day, Matt went to the detectives and told them what had happened. And since he used to serve with the military, they ended up taking him seriously and executed a very thorough search warrant for Pazuzu's property. When they showed up to his house, they saw everything, and as soon as they opened the door, garbage was covering the floors, animal and human droppings all over the place, mold and pictures of demons on the wall along with graffiti. But the worst was yet to come, because when they went out to the backyard, they noticed something very strange. The ground was uneven, so investigators focused their attention on that, and when they began to dig, they found the remains of some people. The forensics team was then called into action, and they identified the two victims as Joshua Wetzler and Tommy Welch. Coincidentally enough, these two individuals had both been missing for 5 years. Pazuzu was the one who murdered Joshua, and Amber was the one who murdered Tommy. Both Pazuzu and Amber were arrested, then charged with murder and accessory after the fact. Not long after, his other girlfriend Crystal Matlock was arrested as well. Amber was sentenced to 30 years in prison, while Crystal got 3 years and 10 months. As for Pazuzu, he never got to face trial cause he ended it all for himself inside his cell. His house of horror was also deemed unfit for human habitation, and they demolished the entire property. Now, one of the craziest things here is that Pazuzu's mom knew about everything. She saw what was happening in the house, and she also knew about the murders. Clearly, she chose to turn a blind eye and pretty much enable him to do whatever he wanted. But in the end, she didn't get charged with anything, and to this day, no one really knows just how many more crimes Pazuzu actually committed. Let me know your thoughts on this story as a whole. Anyways, don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe with the bell notifications on for a lot more content like this, and I'll see you guys next Saturday.